Welcome back. We to preview Sunday afternoon's Manchester derby in the Premier League between Manchester United and Manchester City. Pascal, start with the away side. Poor run of form at the moment. Lost at Palace last time out.
Yeah, tough place to go. Palace have had some really impressive results at Selhurst Park. You know, especially those nighttime games. It's always a great atmosphere then. I think the big teams always find it quite a tough place to go. But you know, City, they played. You know, they didn't play too badly in that game. They had a lot of. You know, they had a lot of ball. You know, around the edge of the box. They created some chances. There was that moment when Aguero, you know, hit the post. It's, you know, inches from being a great goal, and you know, that could have changed the game in terms of the goals they conceded. First one, it was offside. You know, it shouldn't have been given. Second one, you'd have to say punching, great free kick. You know, it wasn't the quickest one. I think Hart maybe could have got across a bit quicker. But when you look at the replay, the ball was always curling away, and you know, he just couldn't quite get there. And it's always quite tough going right down low like that. So I don't think he could have done too much about it. But obviously, disappointing goals conceded. Yaya Toure had a bit of a frustrating afternoon. You know, had a few sort of pot shots, and eventually one of them paid off. But they couldn't get anything out of the game in the end. And obviously, like you say, poor run of form. 3 defeats in 5 overall in the league, and all 3 of those came away from home. They lost 3 away from home in a row, which, you know, just shows how poor they've been recently, and you know, they've certainly affected their league position because they've dropped to 4th.
You mentioned they've lost 3 league games in a row away from home. I think they've done it since 2011. So you're talking about how bad it's been on the road lately, and you know, the worst left them in the table, down to 4th now. You could have obviously gone above Manchester United, but they will enter the derby below United in the table. Obviously Arsenal on Chelsea's nearest challengers now, and City sitting 9 points off Chelsea. Chelsea got a game in hand as well, so that's over as far as that's concerned. You know, talk about them retaining the title, but that's not going to happen. They're 7 points above 5th. Well, you know, Liverpool, you fancy them to finish in the top 4, but I just think you look at their players, and mentioning the Palace game, I don't think the body language is great. You know, Dzeko up front, is that really a partnership with Aguero? I'm not sure. Aguero's not been in the best form. Like I say, Toure. I think when Toure he had so many shots outside the box, and every time it went sort of over the bar, there was a lot of arm waving and, you know, gesticulating to you know, certain things. And Zabaleta's obviously out of the team as well now, a strange one. Sagna at the back. Mangala can't get in the team. Big money signing. Dave McKay's company's been a bit out of form, and it's just not really going right. It's an ageing squad, isn't it? You talk about the average age of their squad. It's ageing. They haven't really got any youth coming through. You know, talk about their academy system, how much money they're spending on that, and all these people sending their kids there, but you wonder whether it will pay off in the future. You know, they're hoping it will do, but this is a massive game, and let's say title ambition's gone, but they've got to focus on finishing top 4 now.
Yeah, I think they should still be pretty confident finishing in the top 4. We'll talk about in a minute that United have got quite a tough run in to come, but you look at City's, obviously this is a tough game at United. You know, they've been great at home this season, but then their next 2 games after this, they've got home games against West Ham and Aston Villa. You know, even though they've been poor recently, it's mainly been away from home. You'd expect 6 out of 6 points in those games, and you know, they should be top 4. Liverpool, 7 points behind City in the race for that place, so they still look pretty safe for a top 4 finish. But if it's 4th they finish, you know, not 2nd, where they look comfortably 2nd earlier on in the season, you do wonder about Pellegrini. You expect him to see out the season. There's no way they can really get rid of him before then, but you wonder if they're going to get rid of him, because, you know, great last season, sort of, they were playing great attacking football last season, obviously won the title, but in terms of European progression, they're still not going too far in the Champions League. But is there anyone out there who's better than him? You know, he came in, did really well last season. You look at, I mean, we talked about Simeone last week. He's signed that new contract at Atletico, so they're going to have to fork out a ridiculous sum if they're going to prize him away. Ancelotti potentially, if Real Madrid, you know, have a bad end to the season, but is Ancelotti going to be much better than Pellegrini? You do wonder. And apart from that, there's not that many names out there which really think that they're going to really make a big impact at City. Guardiola, you can't see him leaving Bayern, can you? And apart from that, there's not many other people. So I think Pellegrini should get another season. There's still a lot of quality there. You wouldn't say they particularly need to invest anywhere in the summer. It's just about finding the right formula and, you know, building sort of the relationships within the team and just trying to find a bit more chemistry and playing better football overall. But yeah, at the moment, not been great, like I say, down to 4th, and they'll certainly, this is the sort of game they'll want to win just to sort of boost confidence, because it has been poor recently.
I think Vincent Kompany said this comes at the perfect time, but I think in the form table, if the league started on January 1st, they'd be 8th in the form table at the moment, so it's obviously not great. But you know, moving on to the home side, a really good run of form at the moment, won the last 5 in the league, and last time out against Aston Villa, it was a good win. You know, it was obviously got the goal before half-time. Herrera, lovely finish. Herrera's in great form, by the way. I don't think it's much of a surprise you get Herrera and Mata in the team, that there's going to be obviously an improvement. They're both great footballers, and it's just finding the right balance. You know, Van Gaal's always on about balance. Fellaini's provided that in the final third. Rooney got the second goal. It was a great goal, wasn't it? Di Maria came on. Wasn't the best cross in the world, but one touch and top corner, and that's fantastic. Should have been game over, but United, as they often do, don't make it too easy. Conceded a poor goal. De Gea, probably one of his, I think hopefully there's a Real Madrid scout there and saw that and thought, no, we don't want to sign him now. But you know, you never know. It was a poor moment from him, but United go down the other end and score another good goal. You know, cut back Herrera. It's his lovely ability to just pass the ball into the bottom corner, doesn't he? He doesn't panic in the final third, and United got a goal scoring midfielder again with him and Mata. That's always important, isn't it, to score goals from midfield? And obviously that was a really good win. Home form, best of home form in the league this season. They only lost one of their last 10 in the league as well. So it's all sort of going right at the moment in terms of Van Gaal finding that balance, and they're looking good. I think you're going to mention the top 4 race, maybe not over in terms of them finishing there, but I think they're looking good. Like I say, good at home, and 1 point off second now, so much better.
Definitely. I think there's one point about you mentioned about Herrera, Mata being great players there, and Fellaini playing a bit more of an advanced role. You wonder if maybe Yaya Toure could maybe take advantage of that. Herrera, Mata, they're quite diminutive players, and Yaya being as powerful as he is, are they going to have that stopper sort of at defensive midfield who can really sort of, because if Yaya, he was looking quite dangerous against Palace, so he scored a great goal and always threatening like that, and you wonder if he just might be able, if Van Gaal goes with a similar formation, Herrera, Mata and Fellaini for playing further forward, you might think that Fellaini could potentially drop back to try and deal with Yaya's physicality back there. But like you said, United, personally, I don't think that they're definite top 4 candidates yet, because they're 8 points clear of Liverpool and Spurs, which with only 7 games to go does seem like a big enough gap. But then you look at their fixtures coming up, this game against City, they've got a poor record against City recently, then they go to Chelsea, go to Everton are improving, they've won their last 3 in a row, and they host West Brom. You expect them to win that, but then after that they go to Palace. We've seen what Palace have done to City. Palace, they've been great recently under Pardew. Then they face Arsenal, who are doing brilliantly themselves, and they finish the season away at Hull. So I think 5 of their last 7 games, you'd say that West Brom and Hull, they're 2 very winnable games, but the other 5 I'd say are very difficult games, and if Liverpool or Spurs can go on a roll, even Southampton, I think they could be threatened. But yeah, they look pretty safe for a top 4, because like you say, they've been really good recently, but I don't think it's quite over yet.
It is a massive game, isn't it, in terms of obviously the title race, and you're looking at, I think you mentioned formation and players are going to be interesting. You talk about Falcao, it's not just not happened for him, he's going to be back on the bench. Will Di Maria come back in? What will happen at the back? Daley Blind, Luke Shaw might be fit, but Luke Shaw's had a poor, I think he's been a major disappointment. He was so good last season, but Daley Blind's been playing left back. But I think you talk about Toure being an interesting one. I think if Navas plays out there, his end product isn't great, but his pace is called Blind's problem. Blind is not quick, he's very intelligent, but he's not got much pace, so that could be a problem. But it should be a very interesting match-up between 2 teams, obviously battling for the top 4 now.
Yeah, I think, when I look at the game, I think you mentioned the Shaw thing there. I think it's just expectation. He's still so young, isn't he? Is he still a teenager, 19, 18? I think, there's the money that they've spent on him. He's still so young. Obviously, it's just moulding him, and with so many years ahead of him, he should be fine. This game, I think, City, they've got a great record recently. They've won the last 4 games against United, so I think they're going into this full of confidence because they've had the better of United in recent derbies. But I think here there could be goals, and I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. 2-2
draw, yes. It's going to be an interesting one in terms of, I think the first goal could be important, isn't it? Like you mentioned, City have won the last 4 games. If they win this one, they become the first team in league history to win 5 consecutive games against United. So that's obviously a major scalp as well. If they can manage to do that, then that'll be another big thing for them to take. But going to draw, I'm actually going to back United just to nick it. I say they're in great form. City struggling a touch, and so I think it'll be 4th consecutive away defeat for City. I think United will nick this one 2-1. So you've got 1 score draw and a 2-1 win for United. Thanks for joining us.